All right, it is week 18, the final week of the NFL regular season. I'm going to go through, give you all of my picks for this week's action. Let's hop on into it. Okay, Saturday afternoon, the 11-5 Baltimore Ravens will host the 3-13 Cleveland Browns. Look, this is going to be an easy one here. Ravens still have a lot to play for. If they win this game, they will be your AFC North champion. So they can't allow this one to slip up. Also, already lost to Cleveland in Cleveland this year. Look at the line. It's 17.5 for the Ravens. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback for the Browns. If it's Dorian Thompson-Robinson, again, this is going to be one of the worst performances we're going to see. I mean, the Browns suck. They are awful. They are easily one of the worst teams in football. They have one of the worst futures in the NFL. DTR is a horrible backup. At least let crazy Jameis Winston play because he's somewhat exciting. Baltimore and Lamar. Lamar's pushing for that MVP. Give me the Ravens. Take home your AFC North championship. Okay, Saturday night, we have the 10-6 Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the 8-8 Cincinnati Bengals in a little bit of an AFC North showdown here. Now, Pittsburgh will know if they have a shot at the division prior to this game. If Baltimore loses, they can win this game. They win the AFC North. But if they do not have a shot at the division, this game still means a lot for the Steelers. Bengals also have to win this game to stay alive in the postseason. Need some help from a couple of other squads, but they need this one. Pittsburgh, the seeding matters here. If you lose this game, you're probably the 6th seed. That means going to Baltimore in the first round of the playoffs. If you win, you're the 5 seed, and that means going to Houston, and the Texans are kind of a mess right now. So this game has huge implications both ways. I'm just really worried about the Steelers, and it's not necessarily the offense. I think the offense is going to get a little bit more on track. We know they've struggled. George Pickens is back. It's the Steelers' defense that's really been letting them down the last few weeks. It just isn't right. It's not a dominating unit like we've seen. Cincinnati's laying it all out there. Joe Burrow probably should be the MVP. He's not going to be, but he's been the best player this year, just out of this world. He's going to drag this offense to another win, I think. I don't think it's going to be enough ultimately, but Bengals win here on Saturday. Pittsburgh reeling with a devastatingly tough schedule to finish the year, and the Bengals hoping and praying they can get a pair of upsets. Okay, the 4-12 Carolina Panthers traveling to the 8-8 Atlanta Falcons. Now, Atlanta has to win this game to have any chance of making the postseason. Realistically, they've probably threw it away after losing that game Sunday night against the Commanders. Carolina, Chuba Hubbard's on the IR. We saw them struggle last week mightily against the Buccaneers. Bryce Young's kind of turned it around. Adam Thielen had a good finish to the year. This defense is just terrible, and they're really bad against the run. So Atlanta's going to be able to pound the rock. I do like what I've seen out of Michael Penix, but maybe they went to Penix too little, too late, it's going to look like for them. Give me the Falcons here. They're 8-point favorites at home. I don't think they could possibly screw this one up either. They're going to win this game on Sunday. Okay, the 11-5 Commanders traveling to the 7-9 Dallas Cowboys. Look, Cowboys are the best team in the NFL. If the scoreboard wasn't mattering, according to Micah Parsons, they would win every game. But the scoreboard does matter. And Washington at 11-5 has a lot to play for here. Washington wins this game. They'll be your 6th seed in the NFC versus the 7th seed if they lose and the Packers win. So Washington's going to want to win that game. I feel like I'd rather go to Los Angeles, then have to play division rival Philadelphia, who's going to be looking for a lot of payback after that win 2 weeks ago without Jalen Hurts most of that game. Cowboys getting 4.5 at home. I could see the Cowboys winning this game just to completely screw up their draft pick, but no CeeDee Lamb. They've been a dumpster fire without him. I mean, they were just a dreadful unit last week against Philadelphia. Washington's flying high. They clinched the wild card spot already, so just playing for seeding. Give me the Commanders. Get a nice win on the road, feeling good, heading into the postseason. Okay, the 11-5 Green Bay Packers will be hosting the 4-12 Chicago Bears. A little bit of seeding implications. Green Bay is currently the 7th seed. They have secured a wild card spot, though, so they're going to need Washington to lose to move up. Otherwise, they are heading to Philadelphia. So I expect Green Bay to potentially rest some guys in the second half, especially if they peek over at that Washington Cowboys score. And if it looks like Washington's running away with it, why risk your guys? Get them rested up against Philadelphia. Chicago coming off a 10 days rest. But this is just a disaster Bears team. They're so garbage. They're so bad. They've lost 10 in a row now. They're going to probably make it 11. Green Bay has to get a win. You don't want to go into the postseason losing 2 in a row after losing to Minnesota last week. So Packers at home, I think they get a win, move to 12-5, and get ready to take on the Eagles in the first round of the playoffs. Okay, the 3-13 Tennessee Titans hosting the 9-7 Houston Texans. Look, things have been falling apart for Houston down the stretch. They don't have Tank Dell. They don't have Stephon Diggs. Nico Collins is pretty much your entire receiving core. You have a little bit of a run game with Joe Mixon. The offensive line is terrible. CJ Stroud's running for his life. And CJ just completely regressed this year. He has just not been good. The defense isn't very good. Tennessee going to be playing both quarterbacks, Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. They're going to be trying to figure some things out. Brian Callahan desperately needs a win. The Titans do hold the number 2 overall pick, and they can't afford to throw that away if they're looking at drafting a new quarterback. But Houston probably going to rest some guys here with the playoffs on deck. They're going to be at home for the first round of the playoffs, so nothing Houston can do. They are locked in at the 4 seed, but they haven't played in 11 days. They're probably going to get the starters in the first half. Has Tennessee -1 here. I just don't think Tennessee's going to win this game. I think Houston wants to get a win, get a little bit of momentum heading into the postseason. So give me the Texans here in Week 18. Okay, the 7-9 Indianapolis Colts taking on the 4-12 Jacksonville Jaguars. Indianapolis coming off the worst loss of the NFL season after throwing away their playoff chances by getting dominated by the New York Football Giants. Both these teams kind of a letdown season. I don't know what the motivation is going to be in this game, but Indianapolis, probably the better overall team. Mac Jones has been, I don't even want to say okay. He hasn't been a disaster at quarterback. I don't think the Jags are going to win again to completely destroy their draft pick. This feels like Indianapolis getting an 8-9, no problem here. I don't know what we're going to see. Jonathan Taylor probably plays, but maybe not the full game. There's no motivation for either of these teams this week. This is going to be an ugly football game. Give me the Colts barely to win this one, I guess. Maybe Anthony Richardson won't be sore and he'll actually play this week, but disastrous finish to the year and overall year for both these franchises. Okay, the 13-3 Buffalo Bills traveling to the 3-13 New England Patriots. These are probably the reverse records like a decade ago or something. I know we only played 16 games back then, but man, how things can change quickly in the NFL. I don't know what the Buffalo Bills' motivation is in this one. They're locked in as the 2 seed, but New England holds the number 1 overall pick, and they're going to desperately be trying to tank. Plus, Mitch Trubisky out there at quarterback, he's a viable backup. I think he's going to do a good enough job here. Give me the Bills to beat the Patriots. Patriots are going to make sure they hold on to that number 1 overall pick. But again, the Patriots could screw this up because they are a disastrously run organization. All right, the 3-13 Giants heading to the 13-3 Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles locked in as your 2 seed and the NFC East champions. Giants threw away the number 1 overall pick last week, but the Eagles do have a little bit something to play for here. I expect mostly rest. Kenny Pickett's banged up. Jalen Hurts is banged up. Probably going to see Tanner McKee. And is Saquon Barkley going to go for the rushing record? Needs just 101 yards. Very, very doable. Now, does he only play the first half? Give it a go. We'll see. But I think the Eagles are going to get a little bit of rest here. But the Giants can't possibly win another game to throw away a top 10 pick. They can't do this. They're picking 4 right now, I think. They can't do this again. So give me the Eagles here to win, get to 14-3. Nick Sirianni's kind of a goofy head coach, and we're going to keep racking up wins here in the NFC. 14-3 for your Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, the 5-11 New Orleans Saints are traveling to the 9-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tampa is win, and they are in. They will be your NFC South champions with a win. The New Orleans Saints have absolutely nobody on this football team. Spencer Rattler's trash. They got no running backs. They got no receivers. Interim head coach is bad. The defense is old. This is just a disaster team right now. Give me the Buccaneers. Take care of business. They destroyed the Panthers last week when they didn't even have control of their own destiny. Now they do. Baker Mayfield's having a great season. Bucky Irving is probably the most slept on running back in the NFL, at least for the average viewer. And Mike Evans, Mr. Hall of Famer, needs just 85 yards to get to his 1,000-yard mark. I expect Mike to get there. Tampa Bay looking to take care of business and be your NFC South champs, hosting either the Vikings or the Lions in round 1. Okay, the 15-1 Kansas City Chiefs traveling to the 9-7 Denver Broncos, and it is real simple, folks. Win and you are in. If you are Denver, doesn't matter what anybody else does. They will be your 7th wildcard team in the AFC if they can take care of the Kansas City Chiefs. But Kansas City's kind of in a weird situation here. They've already locked up the number 1 overall seed, so it's easy to expect that they're just going to rest of the way. But you played on Christmas. You had 11 days off before this game. Then you're going to have a first-round bye. It's going to be like 20-plus days before the Chiefs are out there playing real competitive football. So I expect to see the starters at least out there for the first half. Mahomes in particular. Maybe Travis Kelce gets a rest. Chris Jones on the defense. But we're going to see the offense out there most of this time. And Denver, their defense has been kind of bad in the secondary lately. The run defense is good. I do think the Broncos are going to do just enough to squeak by with a win in this game. Maybe Carson Wentz can go in there in the second half and get the upset, but I just think there's too much on the line here. Denver's too focused. As bad as it's looked the last few weeks and as much of a fraud as I'm going to keep calling the Broncos, 10-7 will be enough to get them that final wildcard spot. All right, the 10-6 Los Angeles Chargers heading to the 4-12 Las Vegas Raiders, and the Raiders have been like a spunky team, 1-2 in a row right now, threw away the first overall pick, looking like they don't care. They're playing hard for Antonio Pearson. Aiden O'Connell's not a disaster at quarterback. Like, I don't think he's a franchise guy, but he's definitely like a career backup. He can fit in there. He can win you games. Brock Bowers, one of the best rookie seasons we've seen. If it wasn't for Jaden Daniels, he'd probably win the Rookie of the Year most years. But the Chargers got a lot to play for. They have clinched the playoff spot, but it is a seeding implication game. If the Chargers win after the Steelers lose on Saturday, they are your 5 seed, and there's a big difference between going to Houston and going to Baltimore. So depending on what the Steelers do on Saturday, if the Steelers win, I like the Raiders in this one to get the win. If the Steelers lose, I love the Chargers to take care of business because they're going to get some action in there. J.K. Dobbins coming off the knee injury. He'll probably get some touches. Herbert does need some rest, but the win is more important than getting their guys rested up. So give me the Chargers in this one over the Raiders. Okay, what should have been for the NFC West title is now kind of a dud. The 9-7 Seattle Seahawks taking on the 10-6 Los Angeles Rams. LA locking up the NFC West last week thanks to some help from some teams out there. So game's kind of meaningless. The Rams seeding, it does kind of matter. They can either be the 3 seed or the 4 seed. If they win this game, they're the 3 seed. If they lose and Tampa wins, they're the 4 seed. And there's kind of a big difference here in the seeds. If you're the 3 seed, potentially could host the second round of the playoffs if the Eagles lose, and you're going to play the Commanders. Maybe you play the Packers. If you're the 4 seed, you are taking on the loser of the Vikings Rams. Now, the Rams have played both these teams. They played them tough, but both those teams will have, one of those teams will have 14 wins going into LA. Not ideal matchup if you are a Rams fan versus playing a rookie quarterback out there. Now, Sean McVay is probably going to rest his guys a little bit. The offense has looked a little bit off for LA. I don't know what the motivation is for the Seahawks. They're all beat up anyway. They did have 10 days off. I'm still going to take the Rams. I think the Rams do care a little bit about seeding. They are a much older football team when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. Stafford maybe needs a little bit of rest, but it's a much better matchup for them to take on the Commanders in round 1. So give me LA to secure that 3 seed. Okay, the 8-8 Miami Dolphins take on the 4-12 New York Jets. We don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be in Miami. Is it going to be Tua? Is it going to be Snoop Huntley? Snoop Huntley was serviceable against the Browns. The Jets have just been an abject disaster of a season, and Miami does still have a chance. If the Dolphins win and the Broncos lose, the Dolphins will be your 7 seed in the postseason. Now, the weather's probably going to be ugly and cold in New York. I'm still going to take the Dolphins here. I just think the Jets are so bad, and the Dolphins are playing for something. If the Dolphins lose this game, I think Mike McDonald is going to get fired, or Mike McDaniel, whoever the Mike is. Mike McDaniel's getting fired in Miami. But I could also see the Jets just like royally screwing up any good draft pick. Aaron Rodgers, a big FU as he's on his way out, if he's even back, if he's even going to play football next year. I think this is too like mediocre to disaster franchises flirting with each other here. The Dolphins can win some games a little bit more than the Jets. I'm going to take the Dolphins here just to stay alive, eliminate the Cincinnati Bengals. But I wouldn't be surprised if the cold weather just bites the Dolphins. Okay, the 7-9 Arizona Cardinals taking on the 6-10 San Francisco 49ers, a game that like a month and a half ago looked like was going to be a huge playoff implication game for both these teams, but instead both these teams fell apart. Brock Purdy's probably out. We're going to see Josh Dobbs against his former team in there. Arizona, I think Arizona's going to find a way to win this game. They're trying to rebuild here. This is year 2 with the new regime. They want to get a little bit momentum. Kyler Murray may be playing for his job as the starter at Arizona. I personally think they should get rid of him because he's never going to get you into where you want to be, but that remains to be seen. In San Francisco, this was their Super Bowl against Detroit, and they lost. They didn't show up really in the second half. So give me the Cardinals to take out the 49ers, and the official disaster Super Bowl hangover season will end for the 49ers. Okay, and finally, game number 272, our final game of the regular season for all of the marbles. The 14-2 Detroit Lions are taking on my 14-2 Minnesota Vikings. Is the first matchup between two 14-win teams in the regular season in NFL history. I mean, just the list goes on and on. We're going to have one of these teams be the first 14-win team to not win a division title, but whoever does walk away with this one will be your number one seed in the NFC. Look, this is simple, guys. This is going to be a great matchup. Both these teams have played each other very tight over the last 3 seasons or so, regardless of what the rosters have looked like. Every one of these games have been tight late finishes. The Lions have won 3 out of the last 4 against Minnesota, so a slight edge to the Lions there, but I think the banged up defense is going to be a problem for Detroit. Their defense is pretty banged up. Minnesota's offense is playing as good as anybody in the NFL, and that includes the Lions, who they'll be going up against. Now, Brian Flores' defensive scheme has struggled a bit against the Lions there. I just think the healthy players out there, Sam Darnold in the spotlight, kind of a magical ride going. We're going to find out who truly is the more cursed franchise between two very cursed fan bases. Obviously, I got to go with my guys. Give me the Vikings to take down the Lions and walk away as your NFC regular season winners. All right, that's going to do it for us this week. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think. Who are your favorite picks heading into this weekend? Who do you like in that ultimate NFC showdown? I love going back and forth with you guys in the comments. If you haven't already, drop a quick like on this video. Subscribe to the channel. We got daily sports content for you guys. If you want to support the channel more, sign up for a channel membership. You get all sorts of access to cool and exclusive perks and content, members-only videos, stuff like that. Again, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.